In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 fun first grade projects. This first one is always a hit. I've been doing it for years, and students love it because it's 3-dimensional art. First, we plan out what our dream house would look like, and I usually give them like different doors and windows and have them like circle what they like as a menu of options. We also plan out things that we'd like to add that are like extras to the house. Do we want a wreath on the front door? Do we want to have a little dog house? Do we want a little swimming pool in the backyard? All those little extra things are planned out. This is a good tie-in for the book, Achy Peck Architect, which is adorable. If you haven't used it before in your classroom, it would work great with this lesson. After they've planned out their house, each student gets a colorful paper bag. And I use these ones from the brand School Smart. It comes in a pack of 28, so there's enough in here for each class to just have one pack. Students will put school paper towels kind of crumpled up inside of there, or newspaper, whatever you've got. And we put glue on the bottom of the bag, like dot, dot, not a lot. And then we glue this to a piece of green cardstock. This serves then as the yard, and it gives them a surface to kind of like carry this home with. I love using these little glue pots for this lesson. So I have gone completely away from using the regular Elmer's glue, and I buy just the big gallon jugs of glue and I fill up these little jars. Here's why I love them. The paintbrush is built into the lid, and I get it. I could just have a little dish with paintbrushes, but why I think these are awesome is there's a flat bottom to them. So as students are working, they stand this up on their table. Those glue paintbrushes are not touching the table. I don't have to wash anything because at the end, they just put them right back in here and we screw it closed. As far as maintenance and like using them, you do have to teach the students how to use them. It works like nail polish. So they do need to like wipe it on the side so they don't get like a big gluey spider web when they go to use it. When I refill them, there have been times when I've like completely emptied them out and washed them and cleaned them, or times when I just sort of washed the brushes. But when I refill them, I put Vaseline, petroleum jelly on the rim. So right the part there where the cap would screw on. And that makes it less likely for the glue to dry there and for these to get all gunky and then get stuck closed. Back to the houses. So how we close these little houses up is we take a piece of black construction paper that I have pre-cut for the roof. And students either use a white crayon or construction paper crayons, and they draw a repeating pattern for the shingles on the roof. We fold that in half, and you can pre-fold this for them even into a book fold, and then I go around and staple that onto the top of the house. That closes up the top of the bag. And I pre-cut squares and rectangles to use for doors and windows. I just find that it's worth it to take that step because that way there's a lot less waste on this project with the paper that they are using. As they're building and personalizing and making their own, you're going to want to point out to them how to make things that pop up that are 3D. So maybe they're making a mailbox or a tree and they want it to stand up. They can't just glue paper like together like this. So they will quickly grow frustrated. Make sure that you're teaching them to bend the bottom of whatever they're making and create a little foot. So it kind of looks like a letter L. And then they put the glue down here. And then when they press it on the paper, whatever they're creating would stand out. Now, this is a fun project. It looks adorable when you display these all together as a neighborhood. This next project is also a hit with the first graders. They love making these animal masks. Super simple to start. You just cut tag board into the shape of a little face. I do have little ears there that they can optionally cut off, but I have holes for the eyes and the mouth, and I hot glue like a tongue depressor, large popsicle stick onto the bottom. I try to really push my students on this project to do 3D paper techniques, which they're not accustomed to doing as first graders. So the first day of the project, I do introduce that we're going to be making an animal mask, but we're going to focus in on the techniques that we will need to do to make the mask. Each student then gets a check sheet, and it has 8 different 3-dimensional techniques. They go and visit all of my tables, so they're like allowed to move around freely. When they get to the table, they look at the sign at that table and they get a piece of paper. So I pre-cut just, I don't know, these are like 4x4 squares of the color that matches the table. So I have like a purple table and the cone, this purple paper, is at that table. I made and laminated a 3-dimensional example of what a cone looks like. Now, before we go off and start to check things off and have students make all of these things on the list, I show them an instructional video. I show them myself at each one of these stations making the technique. So that is available over on Teachers Pay Teachers, that you have that video that comes along with the lesson to use with your students. It has all of the signs. You can set them up as centers and the check sheet for your students so that they can check things off as they go. I have them save all of these in a Ziploc bag, and then they can use some of them the next week on their mask. And on the back, I have them plan out what their animal is going to be, and then what techniques they're going to use that we learned about on that first day. Why I love this is it exposes them to a lot of different things that they might not get to do on their particular animal. And some of them don't really go to 3-dimensional when they start creating the mask, but at least with this, then they've experienced and they have some strategies and techniques should they want to use them. Some years I have saved everything from their little bags and then like glued them onto a crazy hat. So know that that is an option as well. It is a super fun project, and I am always loving to take like a group picture at the end where everybody holds up their little mask in front of their face and send that off to parents. I think it's just a great connection to the community, that they love seeing the kids come home with art that they're excited about. This next project has a wonderful science connection. I pre-fold the paper so that there are 4 different sections, one for each of the 4 seasons. And then students with me will draw a tree using oil pastels. And I go through the steps of how to draw the tree. We start with the letter M, and we talk about the roots of the tree. They talk about trees in first grade science, and they talk about the 4 seasons. So this is an excellent connection and tie-in. After we draw that little M for the roots, we start to make a big thick trunk, and I have this color that in with oil pastels as we go. Then we start to make a Y or like a V at the top. We talk about how at the beginning of the tree, it's really big and thick, and then as the tree goes bigger and bigger, those branches get smaller. This gets them away from making their like lollipop symbol of a tree and lets them know, like, when we're looking outside, we can't even count how many branches are on a tree. There are so many. I try to have them then grow the tree so that it hits every single section of the paper, because we're going to be painting next. And we want to be able to put something for that season in each part of the tree. I also ask that they make it go so big that the tree touches the top of the paper. This is that True Ray construction paper, so it holds up pretty well with the paint. Then I set up stations for this. I have 8 tables in my classroom, but they're pushed in, like 2 of them are pushed together, so it looks like there's 4 big tables. Works great. I have this lesson over on Teachers Pay Teachers, and again, I have like the acrylic sign holders, but I put in the season names and a picture of like what goes with that season. So for spring, we're in Washington, D.C. area, so cherry blossoms are a thing here. So we've got a little pink and the light green, and they use Q-tips to apply the paint. We just say like what we do with the glue, dot, dot, not a lot. We talk about what would be on the ground underneath the tree as well, and we apply dots for that. Summer is just 2 different greens, like a darker green and your regular green. And this is the Crayola Artista 2 paint. I really like it. It's not the most expensive paint. It's not the nicest paint, but it is washable. And I find that the colors are really thick and bright. For fall, I do a mix of like yellow, orange, red, and brown. And then for winter, we just do white and then have some like leaves falling in the fall, of course, and then snow falling there in the winter. Beautiful frame-worthy results on this project. In the 4th quarter, I do sewing with my first grade artist, and we sew a small rainbow. I pre-cut the burlap. I use electric scissors to do this. It makes it a very easy job. And I think that these are maybe like 10 by 10 squares. How I prepared the burlap, because it will fall apart. Just the edges of it will start to fray and it won't stay together. It's a little bit like, never worked with it before. It's really stiff and kind of like scratchy material, but it will fall apart. It's like a waffle weave, but it's very loose. So what I like to do is take the burlap, cut it ahead of time, put it on waxed paper, and then I apply glue with a foam brush and let them dry overnight on the drying rack. In the morning, I just rip it off, trim it off if there's any like rough edges around the edge there. And I usually staple the student's name tag right onto the sewing project. That's always a challenge, I think, when you do sewing projects of like, how are you gonna get their names on there? I just have pre-printed name tag labels that I use for everything that I staple right onto their artwork. We use yarn for this sewing. We use plastic needles. Try to find one with a really, really large eye, especially for first grade, and they can be quite successful with this. I teach them a method of using paper birdie. All it is a piece of orange construction paper. We bend it and fold it up so that it looks like a bird's mouth. Now, I have handouts for this, and I also project this up onto the board, but I teach them a method of how to tie a knot onto the needle. I prep the strings ahead of time, and I have them in rainbow drawers. There's like a little set of rainbow drawers that are a little bit smaller, and then that's perfect. Like the red yarn is in the red drawer, the orange is in the orange, and so on and so forth. I tie a double knot onto the end of the yarn, and then I already have it in the drawers ready to go. Their job then is to thread the needle. So they use this little tiny birdie to bite the worm, the end of the yarn. Then they slide the smooth end of the paper through the eye of the needle, and they pull it through maybe 2 inches. From there, we set it down on the table, and especially when you're teaching young students if they might not even know how to tie their shoes, you're teaching them how to tie a knot, have them set it down on the table and make an X. Let them see that X. So the little tail of the yarn is going over top of the big tail. Then they take that little tail and go behind and through the circle. If they know how to tie their shoes, this stuff will be super easy for them. I have them look for a pretzel. The way that the yarn will go through, it will look like a pretzel, and we show what that looks like up on the board, and we say whenever you see a pretzel, you have to grab it with both hands, because a lot of them will just kind of pull with the one hand. We think about food, we're hungry, want to eat those pretzels, grab it with both hands, and then they pull the knot tight. As they are sewing, something that I came across that is a game-changing tip, especially for first grade, is we're not doing like under, over, under, over. This is a running stitch that we're doing. So it's just really simple, kind of repeating and repeating. And they get better as they go. They like that the first day, they might only get red done. But on the second day, they might get all the warm colors done. The colors get smaller. So purple is really small, but the red one obviously is longer. As an extension, I have got gold yarn where I let them add like a little sunshine or a pot of gold at the bottom. They can add clouds, grass, flowers for those that are really good at this. But I don't do, like I said, the under and over. They get stuck about like what's on the back, what's on the front, going around the side. So what I'd have them do is pinch the burlap, make a little mountain, push the needle through the burlap, and then pull it through the other side. And then they just let the burlap go and do it again. Pinch, push, pull, pinch, push, pull. They are able then to stay on the front of the sewing project, and they're less likely to get it tangled up. When they do have a mistake, make sure that you're showing them what to do to unsew it. They just need to take their needle and turn it around, point that pokey part right back into their mistake, pull it through the other side, and the mistake unsews itself. I think it's really important to troubleshoot with them and have like videos and examples and show them demos where you make a mistake and then you show them how to fix it. Because the last thing you want when you're teaching this is everybody to just be waiting for you. You need to make it really clear that there is multiple strings to go across for red. So there's probably they have to tie a knot more than 20 times on this project. They're going to be tying the knot themselves, okay? You're not going to be tying it for them. When I go around and helping them with my voice. If I do a step, like I make the X with the yarn, I will set it on top and show them the X, and then I will undo it. And I have them do it. I want them to grow in independence, that they're able to do the knot tying on their own. If they have a mistake, they either unsew it or they have the option to go get the scissors and cut that string off and start again. But you don't want them sitting there waiting for you each time to troubleshoot. On the first day, I tell them my plan that I'm going to make a circle around this table, and then I'm going to make a circle around this table, and then I'm going to circle back to this table. And I just keep going in the same pattern. You can't raise your hand and come over and get me on that first day because everybody's going to want help. This is new to everybody. Everybody's learning it. You might also want to talk about video games and challenges for video games. You get a new video game, You don't beat the game the first day that you get it, okay? You don't tell your mom to throw it away because you can't figure it out the first day. This is going to be something that they find challenging, that they do need to work through. But I had a class today and all of them were like, oh, wow, we're so much better at this today. I think even having this broken up, because I have hour-long classes, the first day, they really only get the red done, if they're lucky. Some of them are still like on the very first string when they leave on the first day. But as they like have time to go back, think about it, I reteach, show my videos again, show my examples. I have visuals at their table with the X, with the pretzel. And we're utilizing these as I'm guiding them through tying those knots and things on their own. By the second day, they're fairly independent. You might have a few students that you need to sit near, but they should be, well on their way. They love this project. It would make a great Mother's Day gift. This last one isn't messy, so I tend to save it for like the very end of the year. We make treasure maps. So this is the True Ray construction paper. I think the color now is almond that you're looking for. I pre-rip the edges so it stays really big, but has that rough, look to it. I found on Teachers Pay Teachers a resource that had, and I'll link things in the comments down below for you guys, but it had all the letters of the alphabet and like a couple different A's and B's and C's, so they could cut out the letters of their name. You could also, of course, do this with magazines, but I know that those are less easy to find, so I flipped over to just using pre-printed letters. So they write like their name. This is Jarvis's, put the plural on the end, so they add an S to their name, map. They are learning probably in their classes about maps, so this is an excellent tie-in to what they learn. They learned about a compass rose, so we have them artistically design a compass rose that would be visually nice to look at, and we look at different examples of that. We talk about what the parts of a treasure map are, so there needs to be a spot where people will start on this journey. And there needs to be a journey line, so like a dot line like in the middle of a road, showing people how to follow the map and where to go. Obviously, X marks the spot. I have them plan out like ahead of time what treasure they will have in the treasure box at the end, like name 3 things that are inside that treasure box. Could be money, candy, jewelry, gold, they get to choose. And I have them choose different obstacles. So we talk about what are things that people would be afraid of, like, a pit of snakes, what are volcano, the fire, the sea monster, what would slow people down. At our school for field day, we have an obstacle course, so my students are familiar with that word, but this is really stretching their thinking to be putting these obstacles together. Like I have rings here, like on the playground, but there's a shark underneath that they have to swim over top of. And they could do this on the water and make each thing like on an island, completely up to them. They all really get into this one. It's fun to see their great results. Now, if you're enjoying this video, check out my 5th grade video. I've got a 3rd grade video and a kindergarten video just like this, packed with ideas and lessons for you.